Conversion means something different to everybody, right? Like depending on what your business values for their marketing efforts in the season that they're in will determine what conversion is. And so, first understanding what marketing efforts are going out and why, that's going to determine the type of conversion that you're going to want. Then you can go and look at the site and be like, okay, how are we going to optimize the site to convert better for this particular segment of marketing? And there might be multiple goals, and that's fine too. If you have a large enough marketing team with a large enough marketing budget, there might be multiple goals and ways to tack multiple of those things in at the same time.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah,
answer is the global, wonderful answer of it
it
depends.
depends. Yeah, dude. Great minds think alike. And what you're going to see with a lot of these too is not just that unsexy answer of it depends, but how much of a role context plays into your specific business and what your goals are. So really the overarching message that, scratches all of these itches is that going in with a plan is really the most important part. And knowing your business, knowing your customer and how what you're putting online represents you accurately and optimizes for that main conversion, whatever that is, whether it is a call, whether it is a form submission, whether it is just getting them to consume more and read about your content, or just getting them to land on the page in the first place so that you can do some nurture. All those things play a role in it, and I'm excited to turn around on that with you today.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Okay, so the first one we have is facility site. I've seen this one. Chris is coming to this completely cold. I've seen
I
this a little bit.
am.
This is a company in Columbus. So we'll do like a first reactions and really sort of unpackage the messaging. I say we focus most of our efforts on the homepage just to make sure we can get through all of these sites that we have. And I'll also just add the most value in terms of what they can do to optimize. 80% of traffic is the homepage. So first reactions, kind of unpacking, scrolling through. This is where you land on. Facility Site, the world counts on Facility Site. Facility Site offers comprehensive resources, including real-time people counting, facility utilization, forecasting, safety notifications, and more. We're proud that 100% of our customers choose to renew every year. Hello, we're Facility Site, dedicated to crafting best-in-class software for nonprofits such as libraries, museums, schools, zoos, and more. Recognizing the significant role your institution plays in your community, you're committed to providing the necessary solutions to measure your impact. Privacy first, continuously improving, no hidden costs. I'm not going to read everything, even though I just have so far, but
Guest counting. Okay,
skip
guest counting.
through.
That's what that is. Okay.
Protect guests and staff with live safety events. So we have a little notification UI here. Make informed
Guest
decisions
forecasting. Okay.
with
Uh huh.
guest forecasting. Delight guests by eliminating lines.
That
We
sounds
offer
wonderful.
immense value to the community. Sightline. So it's
Disney
like to
World
have.
could use that. Can we eliminate the lines at Disney World?
Yeah, I mean, that's their ITC for sure. Powerful reports on demands. They've got some nice UI there. Additional features, free support, responsive UI. Dang,
Closing out with some FAQs as per usual.
FAQ. And then footer. So we'll focus it on the
Awesome.
homepage. They do have, shouting these guys out, they do have service pages. They have, man, the first thing, I mean, first thoughts, like focusing on the homepage, like I said, there is, it's a very visually appealing site. It's interactive, it flows well, there's a lot of scroll animations. It's a great visual presentation. And all of this is aside from messaging. So, my first experience as, consumer on the homepage is that I am impressed just with how it looks and the visuals behind it. In terms of the messaging, I think this is where there's a lot of areas for improvement because I think especially in B2B, it is a very hard thing to do to portray a solution that doesn't exist yet. There's nothing uniquely like it. And I know a little bit about these guys, Facility Site, and what they do. So I'm coming into it with that context, but I'm trying to remove all of that just for sake of this. It's so hard to package a your own unique product especially when it's not like something that you could pick up off of a shelf. You know, it's a software. It takes a team to go on and implement, you know, at these facilities. And the best way you can kind of communicate that is through photos and visuals and very clear, punchy copy and doing that in a succinct way too. So you want to make sure that you're limiting two dense areas of bodies of copy as you go through. I think you do a good job of segmenting out your specific deliverables. I think something that could sort of pour gasoline on the fire with that a little bit is maybe having some iconography that you could sort of identify with each of these main features of the product that you're really trying to push, especially if there's three main ones that you can focus on. Maybe having those featured maybe somewhere above the call outs for each one and creating a little bit of branding around that as well. That would help kind of delineate what the product is and what its main avenues of value add are. And something that you can do, like when you're on calls, when you're doing demos with clients, like what are the main things that appeal to them when you are on these calls, and really emphasizing that in the copy on your website. Like what resonates best? What are people getting the most value out of, especially if you've been in business for a while? These are all ongoing efforts that you can really start to reflect in your site copy. But Chris, do you have any thoughts? I know I went on for a little bit there, but I have a couple more things I would want to add just from seeing the homepage.
So the first thing that I noticed, and this industry is new to me, and so I'm not as familiar with it, so we can take that as both a pro and a con, is I did not realize by looking at simply the homepage until about halfway down that this was all about guest counting at various different facilities. And making that automated. And I also don't understand the pain point behind it. I get the features of it, of like freeing up your team members to be doing other things and stuff along those lines, and be able to have better knowledge around when emergencies happen, having better accountability metrics and things along those lines. But I don't understand, looking at this from with outside eyes, what is that pain point that they're solving with this outside of the feature set.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
The other part, then I'll actually go ahead and share my screen.
Uh-huh.
We have one call to action right here. We got get started, and this is the this is the problem with basically monochromatic color schemes. Is we have purple right now in the logo here. We got a little bit of a light blue showing, but I don't really see that used too much. I see that kind of more as an accent color. But that purple, visually speaking, gets lost. Like these links down here within each of these sections, they don't look like buttons. They don't drive attention down to them. And so I almost want to see each of these sections having actual button attached to them to drive traffic to whatever element that is of interest. I do think you should have both a primary button style and an alternative button style to showcase weightiness of them, but these are simply text links. With that also being said, is the navigation bar goes away when you scroll down. So you have your one call to action, which is get started, but it's gone as you're going down the page. I'm very much, in general, against the idea of the hiding the navigation bar on scroll. I realize from a visual and aesthetic perspective, it feels nice and clean. You're not cluttering the screen with your logo because people already know who you like, the company name at that point, right? But that's the only button on the page. And so I want to see that more readily. Even with this, where it's basically just a blurred out, like it's blurring out the background, that's fantastic. Very subtle, very easy. And the last thing I'll say to this, in particular, get started. What am I going to get started today? What is the next step? Get started's generic sounding to me. Am I going to schedule a call with a sales rep? Am I going to get a demo of how this product works and how all of those types of things? That I don't know. So I'm all about having buttons and calls to action that describe exactly what is behind the button. so that people
Yeah.
know what they're getting themselves into ahead of time. It's going to make a lot easy. It's going to make it a lot easier for people to actually click on them.
Yeah, and also making each of your CTAs, that's a great point you bring up, making those CTAs very specific and tangible to what each of them are. So instead of maybe saying things like learn more about Sightline, maybe learn about how Sightline can grow my enterprise, or see the benefits of Sightline, or see main features of Sightline. Really tying it back to what exactly is on the other side of that, what that page is leading to. Chris, do me a favor and click on get started. I think that's a good thing that we could
Yeah,
add is like what does their conversion page look like? Fill in the form
basic
below and
form.
we'll get back within one business day. Okay, so not
So
bad.
like
You're
what?
setting
Yeah,
expectations a little bit. I think I'm a huge fan of having exactly what Chris, what you said, is having expectations like what does this look like immediately afterwards? Are you going to get an email follow-up? Are you going to get what does this email look like when you get back in touch? What are the main things that are going to be discussed in that call? Is it going to be a sales meeting? Is it going to be a demo? Is it going to be a walkthrough? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be virtual? All these details that you can kind of expand upon because especially when you have a dense form like this, and if someone submits it,
yeah.
that you can tell that they're bought in. You know, you have some level of engagement, you're viewing interest, you have a filter, especially in a product like this. It's not something that's a very quick conversion cycle. You're not grabbing a Coke off the shelf.
Right. Yeah.
B2B, it's the people that convert on your website, even if it is only, 2 to 3 form submissions a month, those are very high interest, high warm leads that you're dealing with. So really level setting expectations with them, treating them like people, and letting them know what's on the other side of this conversation for them goes a long way, and it tends to be very appreciated too.
I'm also a huge proponent, especially in the B2B realm, when you have a contact form of any kind, and especially when you're a smaller business, if there's one or two actual humans on your team that are going to be the ones that are doing that first point of contact. So no matter who fills this out, it's either going to be Bob or Susan that get back to them. Like, showcase those people on this page. That is such an easy win to make a basic contact page feel more personal when you can definitively say, Bob or Susan is going to get in touch with you, and here's the things that we're going to be talking about on that call, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever that
Uh-huh.
is. That just breaks down the barrier of company logo, and that's all I know, and humanizes the brand. And I realize the larger you get, the less likely that that's going to be able to happen. But
Uh-huh.
something I always like to push for with small to medium sized businesses is that. Because, like, as we
Uh-huh.
scroll here, we actually don't really see any pictures. Like, there's no people. I mean, there are people inside of in this photo here, but there's nothing that talks about their team. And
Uh-huh.
not directly saying like, look at these wonderful people, this is what they do, but like, it's a way to personalize it is by using real photos of your people to help bring that human element, and again reduce the emphasis of we are a company hiding behind a logo effectively.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And there's always that, like I had this conversation yesterday with another agency owner, is that people buy from people, no matter how corporate,
Yes.
no matter how high ticket, high value your service or product is, people buy from people. And whether or not you want to be completely forward facing in your company, whether or not you want to be founder led or anything like that, it helps so much for people to know because it's always one single person that's navigating your site at one time specifically. To know that there's a person on the other end that has either built a product or knows about it. And I think something that would go even just a simple headshot of like founders, organizations. It
Yeah.
also is
Mm-hmm.
goes a long way for social proof, which I think another aspect that you guys could lean on. Facility site is having even just like 1 to 2 ICP testimonials, people from libraries, people from organizations that you've worked with that would go a really long way. Um, but dude, Chris hit Chris's nail on the head is that having some element of personalization involved somehow. Maybe it's just a quick 30-second founder video, especially with a complex, feature-rich, unique solution like this. Being able to explain it, if you can get your founder on a video being able to explain it, no one's going to be able to explain it better than he can. And that's going to take a lot of pressure off of having to get your copy exactly right in such a succinct message. Is when you can personalize a little bit and have some interactive elements with the video in there. So we tend to recommend that as well, whether or not it's prominent on the homepage or anything like that. It doesn't have to be front and center, but having elements of that too just make your site a lot more effective.
The last thing I'll mention about this, I went ahead and clicked into one of the feature pages, and again, this boils down to calls to action. Again, like these aren't crazy scientific things that we're talking about. Is when we're on the safety page, the only buttons that are on this page are the ones to go to like the previous and next features effectively. Now, if there was something on this page that drove somebody to be like, oh, they do have this thing that I was looking for, let's go ahead and move forward with the next step. That's not here, not even like inline text links and whatnot. So, no, I'm harping on calls to action a little bit, but as you're going down to these, from these first tier pages and down to these second and third tier pages to understand more detail, we still need to have CTAs to make sure that people can make that next move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, I think, yeah, I love that, dude. This is so good. I fucking love this so much. So we can, so that's above the hood. That was a really good point. A lot of practical areas. They do a lot of things well, like we said in the beginning. Very professional look, clean, simple to navigate. It's got the wow factor to me. And so it captures your attention. It's just about delivering upon that and doing justice to who they are as a company and clarifying that. So there's a lot of good things they can work with FacilitySite, doing a great job. A little bit, super snap. We have the high level agency owner overview of like what we see when we're looking, at a site like that and the tactical areas for improvement. Now I want to get double tactical with just some quick under the hood stuff. That ends up being, equally as important, but is stuff that you just don't see, and a lot of people don't think about. So things like we ran a couple tests on mobile optimization, broken links, page speed load, and also responsiveness and basic SEO checkboxes. So we have things like the mobile responsiveness. So some small details that, and the responsiveness, Chris, I know that as developers, people who have built sites before, responsiveness is just the no matter what software, no matter what code base you're working with, no matter what platform you're building on, responsiveness is just the biggest pain. But it is important because, depending on your industry, you're going to have at least 60% of people that view your site on mobile, and you need to put your best foot forward and meet people where they're at. So on FacilitySite in general, does not translate the best to mobile. There's some checkbox and performance improvements that they can make. It's like increasing their text size and making sure their viewport is set correctly. A big thing that we've seen for mobile performance is that it does load a bit slow, and as we saw on the desktop, there's a lot of interactions there. So maybe compressing those and only making those accessible on desktop where there's a lot more page performance features, and compressing the animation so that way you're not loading a ton of scripts on mobile is a good idea for this one. There's 2 broken links on the site. Again, every site is probably going to have at least 2 to 3, and these can come from images. These can come from just broken links that happen over time. So we have pages to those that we'll send over to the founders, the people that submitted the site, Klaus. So they can go in and check those. The overall, GT metrics, page loading speed, performance, they're a C, which isn't terrible. We'd like to see that at A minus or B generally, but a lot of their issues come from the responsiveness, the page load speed. So they're loading at about 4 seconds. I went and loaded the test before this. And a lot of that is due to like large contentful images. So like the interactions on the homepage, the moving gradients. I don't know if that's a WebGL effect or something that uses Java, but it does load a lot of scripts and it taxes their loading time, especially above the fold. So that's something that I might want to go in and fix. And then also, like I said, the page voting time is a big one, especially when it is a complex product. You're going to want people to try and simply understand what they do. You want to make sure you're voting responsibly as well. So those are some of the high level things. Not as fun and sexy as a conversation piece, but always good to have tactical things that you can actually improve underneath the hood because those things do matter because what you don't see can hurt you. Um, but yeah, so anything else to say about Facility Site? Anything that you think they're doing well, you can give them kudos for. I think when it comes to a lot of the sites we'll see today, I think that they definitely have visual from a visual standpoint. They have their stuff together. It's just about, succinctly putting the message out there in maybe a better packaged way that could represent them a little bit better and do them more justice.
The one thing that I'll add, and we have this very blurry screenshot of the site on mobile. This navigation bar here on mobile is fantastic. Great size logo. We have the call to action that sits there, and we also have the hamburger menu to dive in deeper wherever. So I just want to say this is wonderful and definitely should be emulated for other
Mhm.
businesses. The
Yep.
ability to be able to jump directly to that call to action from wherever you're at on the mobile site, 10 out of 10, highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm huge sticky mobile nav head. Huge on the sticky mobile nav for mobile. Makes a big difference.
I'm trying to talk some of our customers into having the hamburger icon, the mobile menu expander right where your thumb is, so like bottom right hand corner, because I feel like you're, especially for sites that are larger, your customers tend to go to the menu and figure out exactly where they want to hop first. Maybe
Yeah.
not as much for the smaller businesses that have like 5 to 7 different content pages, but for larger ones that have multi-tier drop downs and things along those lines, like let's get that navigation button down in the kind of the bottom right hand corner so that
Mm,
you don't have to almost like two, like the phones are getting huge, right?
uh
Like if you want to have easy access to the menu, let's put it right where the thumb is. We did it with one of our university clients where we have like this little CTA strip that sits at the very bottom, and that's been fantastic. So I want to
Yeah.
move that over into the small to medium sized business as well because it just, I get having it at the top. I get it because that's kind of
uh
historically where it's been, but I almost want to see if we can shift that perception and put it down at the bottom. So we'll see. I
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to user test that very much yet outside of that one.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think small 1% improvements like that are so easy to go in and validate too. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of Fletch PMM. I'll share their
Oh
site real
yeah,
quick.
totally.
Yeah, but Anthony's coming on the show in a couple weeks. But they are huge practitioners of they drink their own Kool-Aid. They drink their own medicine, whatever you want to call it. So if you look at their site, one of the things that really stuck out to me that I think all of us could emulate, I'm going to implement something like this on a lot of our clients' site too, is having, just like you mentioned, and this responds well to mobile too, is having this bottom drop down call to action come up as you're scrolling, like view pricing. And these guys know all the psychology behind, conversion and messaging and
Oh
everything
yes.
like that. But as you're unpacking their story, they have the videos like we kind of recommended for facility site. Dense, they have testimonials, not too long as well. But just having that constant call to action, even on desktop and mobile, because even especially on mobile, when I go to the menu, I think of navigating to other pages, and that's kind of the psychology you take when
Hmm.
you approach a home page is, okay, I'm walking into a restaurant. I'm walking into, no, here's a better, like, I'm walking into Walmart. Where do I go? Like, direct me to where I need to go. And the homepage is the Walmart greeter that meets you at the door. Hey, hi, what are you looking for today? What areas of the store can I navigate you to? What's most important to you? And how can I help you get there the fastest? That's really the role of the homepage, no matter if it's B2B, B2C, long-term sales, like no matter what your goals are, that's how you should approach the homepage. And then the presentation of that is really manifested in, a combination of design, UX. My friend Tass Bober, she says she's in Columbus. She audits landing pages for B2B, but she says something that
Yeah.
resonates with me so well is that design is queen, content is king, but design is queen. So if you were to
Hmm.
go into a restaurant, right? and they hand you the menu on, if you were to go into a restaurant and they hand you a directory, a menu on a Google Doc, right? It's less impressive. It's not a great presentation. Maybe it has everything that
Yep.
you need on there. But, if the store is messy and everything's clunky, you'd rather have a better way to go out and navigate that. It's going to put you in such a better light. It's going to be a better user experience, especially when you make the restaurant analogy. The experience is everything. And you want your site to be something that people can kind of come back to and feel familiar with. And you
Yeah.
want to create that sense of like they've almost like they've been there before, even though they never have. Um, so yeah, that was a bit of a tangent, but
No, you have to know in design and UX, you have to know which rules you are willing to break. And you can't break all of them because then you get this completely clustered mess.
Mhm.
But following the standards of common user practices and knowing the one or two that you want to break that really kind of lifts you over the edge of like, oh, that's something a little different that I wasn't expecting. But everything else is exactly where it should be. That is fantastic. Like that's the mindset when you're thinking about design and UX when you're building out something new is what are the one or two rules that we can break that fall in line with the messaging that we're going to be putting out there as well. And that's where things get fun, needless to
Mhm.
say.
Yeah, I love that. So, facility site, great job. We're gonna package that up and send to you guys, and to hopefully take away some value from that. So, that was a great first one, starting off strong. The next one we're gonna go over is CoLabs. The next one we have is CoLab. This was a submission from LinkedIn from Alex. Chris, you want to share your screen and run through the live site? So,
Uh
CoLabs.
yes.
All right.
CoLabsHQ.com. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do an initial scroll. And again, this is going to be the first time that I'm looking at this. I'm not going to sit
Nice.
here and read everything.
Going in raw.
Exactly. Some of the best ideas pop out that way, honestly. There's a good
Some of the
reason.
worst too, actually.
Also, that as well too. Okay, so this is what I'm seeing here. I'm going to talk a little bit about. We're going to have a couple of things in terms of messaging and visuals that I want to focus in on.
Uh-huh.
Is first things first, the messaging here in the hero section talks exactly to what you guys do. You give support to small businesses by streamlining ops and helping with their back end management. That makes sense to me. I already
Uh-huh.
have a picture painted of if I work alongside you guys, you're going to take some of that administrative lift off of my shoulders.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm seeing. And again,
Yep.
this is based off 30 seconds here, but that's kind of the point. Your potential
Yeah.
customers aren't spending minutes on the site.
Yep.
Now, the thing that's missing here, and is missing, it's a common thing. We don't have a call to action. We don't have a button here that says schedule a time with one of our back end managers, schedule a time to talk with somebody who will streamline your operations next week. Like whatever that needs to be, that's not there.
Uh-huh.
This sentence over here, we handle the work that you don't have time for. This is fantastic. You're connecting emotionally right here. Like, oh, this sounds great. I honestly just hired a company to come in and clean my house next month, and their whole company name is called Buy Back Your Time Cleaning. And I'm like, that I am
Right
buying
on.
back my time because I hate cleaning. So you're connecting directly with that problem. So messaging overall here is very close to being spot on. I will say from an aesthetic perspective, where we lose things are this navigation bar, super tall. It also doesn't stick to the top either. So maybe possibly recalibrating your logo to where you have the icon and the name side by side so it doesn't fill up this square amount of space.
Mm.
It'll reduce the amount of white space up here so that you can get to the meat and potatoes of this page a lot faster. And then consistency. This is something that I like to look at. I call it design drift. And if you're looking at things like these headers, and then your paragraph content here, your subheaders, these bullet points down here. The sizing and the spacing of all this is not the same. So we have some use of space here and here. We got some white space here and around these sections, but then when you go to mission control, everything's kind of pushed together. And so
Uh,
spending some time in creating the standard for what do your header 2 tags look like? What do your header 3 tags look like? Almost thinking of it in terms of like if you're building a Word document, you have that style drop down. You have headers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What what are the baseline styles for those key basic elements, and what is the spacing around those as well too? And a lot of website content management systems will give you the ability to kind of save those away so you don't have to think about it anymore, so your design stays consistent and doesn't start drifting month over month and year over year. So those are some of the bigger pieces looking at the homepage that I have found. Andy,
yeah,
what
and
about you?
yeah, those are really good call outs, and those are more from a design and UX standpoint. I was scrolling through, just some of the ops. I was trying to keep everything, contained to the homepage just for keeping on topic with what we're trying to do. But I 100% resonate. Chris said a lot of good things, especially the header. So me having a little bit of context, I know Alex Folks on LinkedIn. Make sure you guys go follow him. He he drives a lot of his traffic from LinkedIn. And if I look at his site stack tool, I can see this is a Go high level site. They have Google Insights. So it is keeping in context where he gets a lot of his traffic. They have their priorities set in terms of explaining what they do very well from the hero section. Because, a little inside baseball is that 60% of people aren't going to make it past your hero section. And I totally agree. Like scrolling through the feature sets, the schedule a meeting, they have good copy. They have a strong value prop. They have good messaging. They speak very well to the problems that they solve. And they manage to do that without feature dumping, saying all the things that go into back end management, all the stuff that goes into helping and assigning roles to small business owners and managing their back end ops. They focus on the outcome and not the tangibles, not getting bogged down in the tangibles of the deliverables that they fulfill. Also, too, and Chris kind of touched on it a little bit with the call to action in the hero section. But I scroll down to the bottom here and I see that if you go up a little bit, you're still sharing, yeah. You see first, it's easy to test out. Your first month is free. We guarantee profit increase. No, like those, that's a great feature set. So what if you had like a call to action? If you go back to the hero section, what if you had a call to action? And Alex even told me, he's like, we're not driving as nearly as many conversions or business from our site right now. What if you just had a big call to action on the hero section? First month free, start now. And I think you're going to book a lot more calls that way. And also being more specific with your call to action that is in the header section. So saying start your first month for free. You know, I think you're going to get a lot more throughput and you start to track the traffic to that conversion page. It's like you got a Calendly link. You're going to see a lot more people that are clicking through to that, booking calls and, getting in touch because that's really the core message behind what we try and tell our clients is that you're not selling the product on the website, you're selling the next step. So
Hmm.
instead of trying to say like, okay, we're going to fix your entire small business, we're going to lay that out, which you do very well. You can say, okay, how can we just move you one step further and get you in touch with Alex? And I'm convinced, once you're on, once you're on the phone with Alex, he's going to be able to explain it a lot better and ultimately convert business out of that. So that's a really good thing that I would implement right away. And that's totally aside from the design side of things. Like there's so much good fruit to pull from here in terms of the messaging, the copy, the problems they solve. And you can really pour gasoline on the fire with some of the stuff that Chris mentioned about the design and just painting in more of a professional light because I think they do. And Chris, like, I'd love your feedback on this too. There is a balance of I think a site that's designed like this, it's a little bit mom and pop. Hear me out. a little bit mom and pop, a little bit more friendly and approachable, I think for their target audience, small business owners, people that they help, that would speak a lot more as opposed to a highly interactive, maybe something like FacilitySite, which we just looked at. I think something like this would speak a lot more warmly to that population. So I think they're self-aware in that. And some of the other things that they do really well, Chris, is that they do have the headshots, they have the testimonials, they have the
Yep.
company logos, they have great social proof. It's very personalized. So all design things aside, they're doing so much right. It's just about, being more effective with the presentation of it. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
yeah,
I'm actually let me interject something there. So one piece that I feel like would actually work out really well with this is a story brand component. I believe they're called success pods. I don't know if that's what I have accidentally termed them or if that's what story brand says, but right below your hero section and before you get into section number 2 in the story brand methodology, there's these little check boxes effectively.
uh-huh.
You don't want people to mentally spend a lot of time on it. You want them to be able to read it and be like, got it. Yes. Great. Fantastic. And so the idea of pulling these three things of actually not they really these maybe these two or three. First month free, guaranteed profit increase, no contracts. Like if those were in a horizontal bulleted list here, so like one little pod here, one little pod here, one little pod here, which is like a simple little icon, so
Uh-huh.
that as you're scrolling down and learning more and diving in deeper, there's this mental checkbox of like, that's cool because
Uh-huh.
not many people are offering a first month free and guaranteed profit increases. So like that's
Yeah.
going to draw some intrigue and you don't have to over explain it. Just check
Yeah.
the box, move on and be done.
Yeah.
And to wrap up Andy's last point of kind of mom and pop kind of design feel, 100%. I going back to my example earlier from the cleaning crew that's going to come in later this month. I didn't want to work with a cleaning crew that looks like they spent $100,000 on their website
Yeah.
because they would probably be way too expensive for me. I wanted something that felt small and nimble and flexible, and so their website kind of sucked. But that was fine with me. I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So there is this element of meeting people where they're at.
Uh-huh.
So 100% agree with that thought process.
Yeah, that's really good. Like, these are things that people actually do take into account. People that know nothing about like the technical aspects of the site, like how is it speaking to them? Like what's going on underneath the words, so to speak? Like it's important. And it's just I think Alex is very and just not knowing him aside is very in touch with who he's trying to help. And that's reflected in not just the aesthetic, but the messaging. So yeah, they're doing a lot of things right. But in terms of some of the practical elements they can take away, we ran some of their site tests. I'll share my screen just to go over some of those to kind of wrap up the audit. But they have a few things that they can improve tactically. Some of them are more important than others, but just to give them, some candy to walk away with. They have very good performance speeds, something that they are very responsive, or they do load very well. I think they have one video on there that could probably use compress and is affecting that large contentful paint, which is what that is. It's usually a very heavy loaded or dense asset like a high res image or a video. So there's some free online video compressors that they could use to kind of mitigate that a little bit. And again, it's not even on the homepage, so it's not a huge concern. But this is something I've seen with Go high level sites too, is that they do tend to be very performant and responsive out of the box. So they're squared away on page load time. All those checkboxes are good to go. They don't have a ton of they're not loading a ton of scripts. They're not doing anything like that. So they're all set there. In terms of the responsiveness and performance, Chris kind of mentioned it a little bit with the large navigation. So I think I mean, it's just pretty clear that they could probably minimize the size of that logo a little bit on mobile to make it a bit more of a better experience, but and also responding I think a little bit to the hero image to making sure that there's more people in there and just doing some basic responsiveness tests as well. Because it is important. Like, Alex drives a lot of traffic from his LinkedIn profile. The majority of people that come through LinkedIn are going to be looking at it on mobile. So you want to make sure you're appearing presentable and professional on that front as well. So there's some tactical improvements for them. And we also ran a bit of a contrast check. Or we also did their mobile HQ. So they're missing their page titles and meta. I know for a fact Go High Level has a code-free interface where you can go in and set these things. So when you're setting your page title, you're going to want to make sure it fits in the character limit, that you mention the name of your business, your main value prop, and bonus if your location, you can get it in there. And when it comes to your meta, you basically have 150 characters to expand on that same positioning. So talk about what you do, talk about your business, give your mission statement, and also stuff in like maybe 1 to 2 keywords like small business innovation, CoLabs, HQ, your company name, all that stuff. Heading structure, make sure you only have make sure you only have one H1 on the page. So make sure that that is usually your heading copy, and bonus if you can. Doesn't have to be this big text right here is your H1, but I would recommend you have either your main value prop service deliverable that you're trying to rank for, or the name of your business as your H1 in some capacity, just so you can start to index a little bit better and start to populate on search a little bit better. I don't think you get a ton of organic traffic anyway, which you're probably not prioritizing, but it's just good to have those boxes checked. Um, so those are some of the low hanging fruit on the tactical side. I think that's about all I wanted to point out there. That was CoLabs. Again, thanks to Alex for submitting that site. I hope you took some
Yeah.
tactical insights from that. We'll package this up and send that over to you. But thank you for the submission, and we hope that helped. That was a lot of fun to go through. Two very different sites. And this is
Yes.
I mean, like full transparency. This is the value. Like this is why I love doing this. Is that the context around understanding their business and knowing how their website is being made effective. Like so much goes into that. That's why you have to have
Yes.
these conversations to kind of unpack it a little bit. And that was a lot of fun. What are your biggest takeaways from those two right there?
In general, simple and basic can get you by for a long time. Like you do not there are different phases of business growth over the years. And as your business grows, the type of website and the type of foundation it needs to be built on shifts and changes. And so there are phases of business growth to where a simple website and inside of a CRM or something like that you already have works wonders because it does exactly what you need it to do. It's the brochure that proves that you exist and that you're real and that you got real people. That's awesome. Then there's a phase of business growth where you have a legit marketing plan. You probably have marketing team members, and too simple of a website isn't going to work. You need something on a stronger foundation that can be a lot more flexible and that doesn't allow for design drift and content creep and all these other types of things that are happening so that your marketing doesn't drag behind. That's when you need to level up effectively. And there are good reasons to be in each of those buckets. And being in the wrong bucket when you're mismatched, that's the problem. And so yes, design is important. Yes, quality user experience is important. Yes, looking professional is important. But knowing where you fall on that continuum to know how much you should be investing in your website, absolutely key.
Uh-huh.